read my book and you're like, I love this, I don't love this, it doesn't work for me, then you do you. Pull what works. If you're on Instagram and you're like, oh, everybody's saying I should lift heavy weights, but God, when I go to the gym, I hate it, I'm injuring myself, then find a strategy that builds muscle that's unique to you. Stop trying to be like everybody else. When you're out at ladies' night and the ladies are like, I took this supplement, I went on Ozempic, I did all these things, and now I look like this. Be me. Don't be your friend, be you. I'm just giving you tools. If you're like, if you think I'm an idiot, no problem. Just stand for something and find your own path.
Dr. Mindy here.
Your body is in a war zone.
Different parts of the brain get activated depending upon how stressed you are.
When you look at it from that inflammatory.
That's interesting. I mean, that has some merit to it for sure.
And you can't control everything.
I'd say.
And what about a woman who is not pregnant, but she's aiming?
I really appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Too kind. And I got a lot of information for you all today. So if you like drinking from a fire hose, you are about to take a big sip. So let's start with this, just so I know who I'm talking to. How many of you have read Fast Like a Girl? Nice. Actually, how many of you actually read it? Let's just say, I mean, I'm buying it, reading it doesn't mean this is the same thing. Okay, and we found out on Friday that a lot of you didn't look at the appendix, which I put some really good things in the appendix. How many people saw the lists in the appendix? Thank you. So I'm going to start from the beginning. So I was in practice for over 25 years. I had a holistic health center that was multifaceted. It had chiropractic, massage, a lot of biohacks. We did a lot of oxygen, red light therapy, and we did a lot of detox, and we did a lot of hormones, and we did a lot of lifestyle. And when I was first in practice, I was like little baby, 26 years old, and when women would come in to my office, they usually had one symptom. It was like, oh, my back hurts, or my thyroid's off, or I'm fatigued, or I have brain fog. There was like one. And it took about 3 tools to maybe put these women back together. And within about 30 to 90 days, these women were healthy and doing fabulous. So it was very, very simple. Fast forward 15 years into practice, and these women started to come in with multiple health problems. They started coming in with struggles with weight. Oh my God, so many people were like, my metabolism is broken. We're going to fix that one today, if that's what you think. So my metabolism, I think it's my thyroid. Can you check my thyroid? I think I got a gut issue. I can't get out of bed. I'm overwhelmed. I'm not sleeping. I have depression. I have anxiety. I can't think straight. Anybody have those symptoms? Keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. Because you're not alone. This is what I really, really want everybody to understand, is that there is some reason that so many women are struggling with their health. And when I was first in practice, I saw a lot of people would come in and they would be like, well, whatever you're saying, I need to go check it out with my primary care physician. And it was like this relationship I needed to have with the primary care physician in order to be able to get the woman well. And then fast forward 15 years, and the thing that I heard the most was, whatever you do, do not send me back to my doctor. I need to do everything I possibly can to stay out of that office. They don't listen to me. They're giving me antidepressants, and they're giving me no solution. So you are my last solution, so do not send me back there. So I started, let's see, where do I push this? Where do I point this? It's not going. Oh, no, it's giving away all the good stuff. There we go. I was told that we have some glitches in technology here. So I started to dive in, and I realized that the women in my practice were not alone, that women in general were suffering. So these are the statistics I put in Fast Like a Girl. We have 41% of women over 21 are obese. I'm going to explain why today. We have high blood pressure. We have Alzheimer's is happening to us. We've got diabetes, thyroid problems. 50% of women that go through menopause are going to be diagnosed with a thyroid problem. We've got autoimmune. 80% of autoimmune conditions happen to us. I saw a statistic this morning that women are more likely to have PTSD from an event than men. That's low estrogen, by the way, and we'll talk about that. So, it's overwhelming how women are suffering. And what we've got going on in our doctor's office is this. By the way, just so we're all clear, if anybody's offended by my swearing, you might leave now, because this bullshit has to stop. I know just so we're all clear, because this one really irritates me too. Words are I love words. I'm an author. I like to write. I like to geek out on words. And one of the things about certain words in our society is they're taboo, like the word fuck. And so I like to say it because I know it's not, I was raised by a 50s mom. It's like, oh, that's not very ladylike. Okay, well, let's look at what lady actually means. Lady means that you play a certain way so society thinks that you're wonderful and perfect. I'm not perfect. I might be a tad bit wonderful, and I like to fucking swear. And I'm definitely not a lady. Definitely not a lady. Ladies follow the rules. Legends, according to Stevie Nicks, legends make the rules. So I would rather be a legend than a lady. So if you are one of those women that have walked into your doctor's office and you have been told that it's in your head, that you need an antidepressant, that there's genetic, that they don't know what it is, and they don't have any answers, you're a whiner, you keep coming back with more symptoms, today's the day I free you from that. Because this is what's going on when you leave and the man comes in, he's told completely different opinion. It's horrific. We have been grossly left behind. And the reason that I'm so mad about this is because I've sat with these women in the trenches, and they are mothers, they are grandmothers, they are community members, and they are suffering, and our healthcare system is sitting there with their arms crossed, not listening to us. When we look at the research right now for women, it's despicable. Like, I'm going to tell you a statistic that nobody talks about, that I think we all should be talking about. If you are a cycling woman, did you know that your cholesterol goes up in the front half of your cycle and it goes down in the back half of your cycle? And so you walk into your doctor's office and they draw blood and they're like, your cholesterol is high. You might need to look out for that. Did they ever ask you what part of your cycle you were in? Did you know that if you have a traumatic event and your estrogen is low, estrogen is neuroprotective. So if the trauma happens and you don't have estrogen to protect your brain, then that particular trauma is going to stick on your brain and in your body in a deeper way because you didn't have estrogen to be able to protect you. Anybody who's in a deep therapy over trauma, have you ever been told that? This is where we are dropping the ball in healthcare for women. And thank God it's changing. And to you guys, I just want to say, one of the things that was the most exciting for me about Fast Like a Girl is how you all just took it and you shared it and you talked about it. It's like my dream with Fast Like a Girl was we were going to crack open a cultural conversation, and we have. So thank you for that. That should probably be another thing we should say in here. We talk a lot, wherever I come around, we're going to talk about all the messy symptoms of menopause, and I love talking about menstrual blood. So if you are like, oh, like, I don't really like to talk about my period, well, today's the day that changes too. And if you're a menopausal woman that's like, oh my God, nobody's been able to like fully let me express what this suffering that I've gone through, I've had to keep it quiet, I want to also free you of that. So, because that's how we make change. And what's happening is that all of a sudden now, you all are waking up, and I mean that not in a like, oh, you were like any less than, but you're seeing what's happening, And you're starting to talk about it, and we're starting to see change happening here in this country where the First Lady's like, hey, this bullshit doesn't work anymore. Why aren't we researching medication? Why aren't we looking at the menstrual cycle? One of my favorite, I always will, this was like the epitome of social media. Last year, I went on the Mel Robbins podcast, and she loved the quote that I said about how postmenopausal women could time their fasts according to the moon cycle. And I said in the podcast, if you listen to the whole podcast, I said, like, it's a theory, and I think it's a really interesting one, because we have to look at how women and nature go together, and there's no coincidence that the moon cycle averages 29.5 days, and a woman's menstrual cycle averages 29 days. Fascinating. So I say this to her, she clips it on a reel, puts it on Instagram, and this one person leaves a comment and says, well, I looked up the moon cycle thing that she's saying, and I can't find any evidence on there, therefore I don't believe anything else she says. And I wanted to just jump in there. You can't, by the way, respond to any negative things on social, so you just sit back and just close your phone. And so, but I was so mad because I wanted to say, and it was a woman who said it, I want to say, they're not even researching us like on blood pressure medication and cholesterol. They're not even looking at what's in menstrual blood. Do you know there's 4 toxins in menstrual blood? When you menstruate, you're detoxing. You're getting rid of plastics and phthalates and pesticides and forever chemicals. You need to be able to shed. We're not even studying this stuff, let alone the moon cycle. So I say this to say that we have been underserved by our healthcare community. And so what I did in my practice is I made a really clear line in the sand, and I said, any woman that's coming into my practice, we are gonna master lifestyle. Because the healthcare, the goal, and this is still the goal, by the way, until they clean that system up, the goal is to keep you out of that system. So if I can keep you out of that system, by teaching you how to improve your lifestyle, now we can move forward with your health. So what I started to do is I started to pull together all the women in my practice, and we would do monthly talks. So, and I would pick a different subject. I would pick, like, 1 month it would be on brain, next month it would be on thyroid, and we would fill my practice, and I would sit down and I'd say, okay, here are the blood tests you need to look at. Here's the lifestyle that you need to think about. Here's how you need to approach your health. And this became so crazy popular that all the women brought the women, because that's what we do, right? When we have a good idea, we don't just keep it to ourselves. We're like, oh my God, this is amazing, you gotta know about this. So it's created this flood into my practice. It got so big that we ended up having to rent a church. And we would, a couple times a year, rent this church, and I would hold these huge events, and all the women would bring the women. And one of the things that I realized in that is how thirsty women were for 2 things. They were thirsty to understand their bodies, and they were thirsty to figure out lifestyle. And it's so fascinating to me because so many doctors will tell you, yeah, my patients don't want to do lifestyle. No, they do. I promise you. You just you don't have the time to be able to commit, and that's not their fault, but you don't have the time to be able to teach them lifestyle. So I'm going to do it. And that's what I am, and by the way, hopefully you know this, once you understand it, I'm going to task you to continue to put this information out into the world, because it's time that we take back our own health, bring it back into our own responsibility. So where we are in health right now may not be our fault, but it is our responsibility. So if you don't love the body you're living in, it's your responsibility. You may have gotten there because of a lot of things like I'm going to teach you today. And we can point a lot of fingers at a lot of people, but ultimately, today's the day you go, it's my responsibility. I've got to do something about it. I have to make a change because nobody else is looking out for you, except maybe me. Okay, second thing that I learned in these incredible mamas and women in my practice was that we are much stronger together. And when we come together in community, we start to thrive with our health. It's not just like, oh, it was nice, like my office was a big party. Literally, like people would come in, they'd bring their kids after school, and all the women would meet. They had met at the Talks, and now they were best friends, and they were doing things together. And like, it got to be a problem where I was like, the waiting room's really full, but those people have already like done their therapies in here, and they won't leave because they're all connecting to each other. And so I started to realize that oxytocin is the most powerful hormone we have, and we don't give her enough credit. So oxytocin, all of you that are smiling at me, thank you. You're getting oxytocin, I'm getting oxytocin. Oxytocin pulses in for a couple of minutes when we have a really cool human connection. And I will show you here in a minute why oxytocin calms and balances all other hormones out. And we walk around and we're like, oh, I don't have time for that. I know I said this on Friday at my pre-conference. How many of us are like, I had some good friends a while ago, but then like I got really busy with like my career and my family, and I just didn't make them a priority. And now you end up like me, an empty nester, and you're like, where did those friends go? I didn't put any effort into that because I was too busy. We walk around as a society, but women especially, and if you are this, I really want to free you from this today. We walk around and we're like, I'm so busy, so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy, I'm so busy. I know I should do that, but I'm so busy, so busy. I'm sorry I didn't call you because I was so busy. I'm just so busy. And it's like a freaking badge of honor that we're so busy. Busy actually destroys your health. And I'll show you why hormonally here in a second. So if you're suffering with any part, and I'm going to walk you through a thought process today, but if you're suffering at all with your health, and I heard this last night. I was at a dinner, and this woman came up to me, and she was like, I'm eating the right things. I'm fasting. I'm taking the right supplements. Like, I'm doing all these things, and why am I not getting better? And it wasn't the place to inform her this, but what I wanted to say was like, who are you hanging out with? In your day, how many bouts of oxytocin are you getting? Are you stopping and calling a friend? Are you prioritizing laughter? I started listening to comedies at the end of the day because I was like, I need to bring my oxytocin up. All those friends I had left in the dust when I was so busy, I now actually talk to them every morning. I have there's a little, anybody use Voxer? I have a really cool little like walkie-talkie system where I can like voice text message all of my friends in the morning so that I get my oxytocin. So I started to really prioritize oxytocin. The other question that I really saw clearly from these women is how many people say, I want to be healthy, but they don't really know what health is. I don't even think our health care system knows what health is. In the healthcare system, health is the absence of symptoms. That's not health. What happens to the woman who goes in for the routine mammogram, had no symptoms, didn't see it coming, and now she's got breast cancer? Was she unhealthy, or was she healthy on the drive to the mammogram? And then she gets the mammogram, and now she's unhealthy. No. You don't lose your health at the diagnosis. It was a process. It takes 7 years for cancer to build up in your body. It was a process that over time you got more dysregulated and more dysregulated and more dysregulated. So this is a new concept that I'm teaching now to my Reset Academy members. How many Reset Academy members in here? Just raise your hand. This is my membership group, my tried and true, and we've been unpacking this concept. I did a podcast on it. You can go listen to it. My podcast is called the Resetter Podcast, and I did a whole 1-hour lecture on this concept that I am now calling the dysregulation loop. And here's how it works. And you can enter in at this loop at any point in time. So your metabolic system goes off. You haven't been taught how to eat. You never knew to fast. Your hemoglobin A1C, which we'll talk about in a moment, is going up. It's over 5. You've been told you need to lose weight. How many, by the way, how many people walked in their doctor? That's another one. They walk in their doctor's office and they're like, I have all these symptoms, and the doctor looks at their BMI, which is a bunch of bullshit, and was like done like back in the 50s. And I mean, everybody's weight should be different. The fact that we're like judging everybody off one average called the BMI is ridiculous. So then we end up with this BMI is too high, and all your problems now are because you're not losing weight. Anybody had that problem? That was really, really common one that the women in my practice came in with. And so what happens in this dysregulation loop is usually the metabolic system goes off first. And now all of a sudden you're putting on weight for no particular reason. You can't lose weight. The old strategies aren't working for you anymore. And your glucose and insulin balance is going off. Then you're upset about that because you're like looking in the mirror, and I'm just going to pick on weight loss today because we're going to unpack how you can lose weight forever. And if you don't need to lose weight, don't worry, I got plenty for you too. So, but we look in the mirror and we're like, oh God, like I can't diet, I can't exercise, I don't know why this reflection that's facing back at me is not changing. I'm doing everything to make her change, and I hate her. I just want to point out that this is happening in the mirrors of millions of women when they see their reflection. So if that is you, you are not alone. When we see extra weight on our body, what ends up happening is we think it's our fault. I'm going to show you today why it's not. So when the metabolic system goes off, now we're frazzled. Now we're stressed out. So some of us will continue to shame ourselves and knock ourselves down, which only raises cortisol. As you're looking in the mirror and you're like, God, I don't like that. What are you doing? Like, what is going on there? I got to look away. I mean, some women are like, I got to look away. And when you're looking in that mirror, cortisol is going up. The same thing, by the way, is happening when we get on our phone and we're like, on Instagram, we're like, oh my God, that person looks so good. That person lost weight doing that. Oh my God. Like, oh, they're doing that? Oh my God, how did they go there? What are they doing? They went on that vacation? Oh my God, look how happy they are with their husband. I'm not that happy. And so every time we're on Instagram or social media doing that, our cortisol is going up. And so you have one group of women that will stay in this freeze spot and they won't do anything. They'll just keep shaming themselves and comparing themselves. And then you have another set of women that come over here and they're like, I have to try harder. Any of those? I was that one. If I don't get a result, well then I should probably 10 times my effort. So this is what we saw in fasting on my YouTube, was like so many women started to not lose weight with fasting, and they were so frustrated because their husbands were losing weight, and that they started to fast 3 days, and their husband's like, look at that, look at my belly, and the woman's on the scale, and she's like, I gained a pound. I'm going to tell you why that happens too. And so what this group of women over here do is they do more. And so when they do more, same thing, they're amping up their cortisol. They're fasting. They're on one meal a day. They're like, I've talked to a lot of these women. They're like, if I could just master that one meal. Let me just master the one meal. I'm fasting all day and I'm at the gym for 3 hours. And what they don't realize is that they're ramping up their cortisol. And every time you ramp up your cortisol, you throw off your nervous system. So even when you're sleeping, even when you're on the couch, your nervous system is so running you all the time because of where your thoughts are at. Okay, then we start doing damaging things to ourselves. Like, okay, we're going to go here. Ready? And no judgment. I'm just a strongly opinionated woman. My mom taught me that you're a woman, you have an opinion, share it. And so that's what I'm doing. Ozempic, the weight loss drugs. No, I'm not criticizing anybody that's on them, but we have a massive problem because what's happening with Ozempic is that food is staying undigested in the stomachs of the people that are taking Ozempic. And so much so that if a woman or a man has been on Ozempic and they go into surgery, they ask them to get off of Ozempic for 2 weeks before the surgery, because what they started finding was when they went under general anesthesia that they were throwing up their meal from days before it had never been digested. This is a massive problem to the microbial system. The other massive problem of the microbial system is birth control pills. When my 24-year-old daughter, when we were having discussions about what would be the healthiest form of birth control, she said, all my friends take the pill, and I just want to take the pill. And I said, no, you won't. Because every study I've ever seen shows that the pill decimates the microbiome. And we're leaving women on the pill for 20 years. 30 years. We're telling menopausal women they should stay on the pill. Meanwhile, it's destroying the microbiome, and in your microbiome is a set of bacteria that break estrogen down. It's called the estrobolome. And then we start putting women on antibiotics. I mean, we put everybody on antibiotics. Luckily, we're changing that a little bit. But then, as the stress goes up and the poor eating goes up and the shame goes up, that microbial system, you have trillions of beautiful bacteria in your gut. And you are actually more bacteria than you are human cells, by the way. And you have trillions of these, and they're like little pets down there. They're like, hey, you want to be happy? I'm going to make you some serotonin. Oh, you came in touch with a virus? I'm going to amp up your immune system. Oh, your energy is low. You know what? The next meal, feed me, and I'm going to break that down and put them into vitamins and move that through the system so that you can start to have more energy. These little microbes in our gut are so pivotal for our health, and we are not taking care of them. And we are going on medications that are destroying them. And I can't tell you how many women I sat with that we really had to work on bringing their microbial system back. And then once your metabolic system's off, then your nervous system's off, then your microbial system's off, your immune system goes. So once your immune system goes, and it'll go two ways for women. It goes like somebody sneezes on you, and you're like, oh, great. Now I'm going to have a cold. By the way, I just want to end this because this is a pet peeve. Just have to slip this in here. Nobody can make you sick. Only you can make yourself sick. So just so we're clear, you're a host to these unusual new bacteria that come into your path. So you're stressed out. Your hemoglobin A1C is too high. Your microbial system is totally depleted. Someone sneezes on you, and now you're like, it's their fault. No, we have 3 systems that are off. Or the worst that happens is that your immune system becomes overactive. And so now this is what autoimmunity is. We start attacking Hashimoto's. Anybody have Hashimoto's in here? Raise your hand. Okay, look at this. Okay, now anybody have PCOS? This is another one. Yes. So these autoimmune conditions are your body attacking itself. There is a dysregulated immune system that has identified that there is a trauma going on in the body, and it's either a physical trauma like a toxin, or it's an unhandled emotional trauma. I just sat with Dr. Sarah Gottfried on my podcast. It'll come out on Monday. She wrote a new book, not a Hay House book, sorry. But yes, I can say the name. It's called The Autoimmune Cure. And the whole book is about trauma. And I'm like, it's so interesting that the book is not like, there's some nutrition, some fasting and things like that in there, but it's all about how to handle your unresolved trauma. And she said, what's happening to women is that when we don't deal with our traumas, the body turns on itself and it starts attacking itself. This is very much The Body Keeps the Score, another non-house book. So fabulous book. And so the body starts to turn on itself. So when we don't handle these things, our immune system ramps up and it starts attacking itself. If toxins get in, it starts attacking itself. I can't tell you how many women over the last year in their 20s and 30s came up to me and said, hey, do you have anything in your book about PCOS? And I'm like, I didn't at the time. You know, when you write a book, sometimes you just write it and then you walk away and you're like, I don't know, I don't remember what I said. And that was like 83,000 words. Like, you want me to know what 80 said in 83,000 words? But when I read the audiobook, I noticed how many times I said PCOS. And I was like, so now I'm like, yeah, I do. There's a lot in there, because what PCOS is the body attacking the whole hormonal system. And there's a reason for that. So then the immune system's off, and now you don't have your metabolic health, your nervous system's ramped up, your microbial system's depleted, your immune system's either hyperactive or not working at all, and now your hormones are a hot mess. And you go into your doctor's office and you're like, you gave me the wrong cream. I need a pellet. No, I can't do the patch. I need a cream. Where am I supposed to put the cream? Am I supposed to put it in my forearms or my inner thigh? Because I think that makes a difference. So where should I put the cream again? How much cream should I use? And we have mass confusion going on with hormones right now. Just so you know, 4% of women in Japan go on HRT, compared to 50% of the perimenopausal women here in the United States that are going on to some form of HRT or bioidentical. We may want to take a lesson from their lifestyle. It's not because they're scared to prescribe it. There's something that they're doing. I have some strong suspicions about it. So then the hormonal system goes off, and then where are all my perimenopause and menopausal women? Nice. So our hormones get depleted. When we don't have enough estrogen, you better not look at us right or wrong, because if you look at us and we are irritated now, you're going to hear about the whole last 10 years and how you irritated us. And I'm going to need to lash out and tell you why you suck. Anybody done that? See, I don't know if there's any husbands in the room, or any partners of, like, this is what's going on for us, is like, we have been storing all this stuff down there. And then we lose this neurochemical armor that protects it from coming out. So I've heard so many menopausal women that are like, I just say it now. I just say it. I can't keep it down. And I'm like, yeah, that's your neurochemical armor. It came down, and now you're like, okay, I'm going to really tell you what I think. When I was 45, I'll never forget, like, I couldn't sleep, and I was tossing and turning and tossing and turning, and I was like in my upstairs, and I could literally hear one of my children eating. They had just gotten home from their sporting event, and I'm like, they're chewing so fucking loud. And so I went downstairs, and my son's just sitting at the table, 16, 17 years old, eating cereal, and I'm like, do you really need to fucking chew that loud? Anybody on that? Yes, thank you. And then I went upstairs. I'm like, well, maybe I was a little harsh on him. Like, yeah, but I was like, I can't sleep. And if I don't sleep, I'm going to kill somebody, and it's going to be somebody in this family. So we go around and around and around this dysregulation loop. And so we try to use fasting to fix the metabolic system. I'm just laughing because I'm the one over here in the nervous system right now trying to regulate my nervous system. And I'm like, okay, just sit down and meditate. And then my brain is like, okay, you should probably do this. Maybe you should call that person. Oh my God, I forgot that thing. I didn't do that. Okay, what am I going to do this afternoon? I'm like, no, you're supposed to be meditating. Anybody? I know if there's a lot. Yes, raise your hands. Let's let it out. I know there's a lot of meditation experts in here that are like, you just don't have the right form of meditation. I probably don't. Very clear I don't. Because when I'm sitting and I'm trying to meditate, all I can do is think, because you took all the external stimulation away. So we try to meditate. We try to fast. We go on probiotics. Right? We're out how many times do we do this? We're out for ladies' night, and one of our friends is like, yeah, I used to have bloating really bad. And then I was on Instagram one night, and this amazing supplement came through. And it said, if you take this supplement, you will not bloat. And so I ordered it, and it came, and you know what? It was right. First day I took it, and all of a sudden the bloating was all gone. Look at me. And then the other woman is like, well, fuck, I need that supplement. And so we start ordering the supplement, we take it, and then we're like, day 1, well, it didn't really work for me. Day 2 didn't really work for me. Day 7 didn't work for me. And then we turn and shame ourselves. It's not the supplement's problem, it's my problem. So be careful what you talk about at ladies' night. So we go around and around, and it's like a dog chasing its tail. And so we've got to come up with some solutions that are going to finally serve women. And this is why I strongly believe that the only answer is lifestyle, and it is multi-pronged. And with Fast Like a Girl, we started the conversation on this metabolic system. And you probably didn't know it, but we also had a conversation about your nervous system. Because when you fast in a rhythmic way, you are taking these cortisol surges and you're putting them at the right hormonal moments. So you didn't know we were having that conversation, but that is exactly what we were doing in Fast Like a Girl. And if you haven't heard it, Eat Like a Girl is coming out in November. And it is a cookbook, and it has got a lot of front matter. In fact, a little more. When I turned it in, it was quite wordy. I guess I have a lot of things to say about food. So there's a lot in there about food. Some of you're going to hear today. So the metabolic system has been an incredible place to start this conversation of regulating women. But what I really want you to understand is that you are dysregulated. You are living in a world that I call a patriarchal pace. There is like, see more, do more, be more, and eat, in all the foods, you're going to see what I'm going to tell you about the food system. Everything is dysregulating all of these systems. And so we started the conversation with the metabolic system in November when it comes out. The book comes out. We're going to go into eating and how we can eat differently. And then we're going to talk about this. The next book is going to be about this neurochemical armor that comes down for women after 40 and how we can deal with our traumas and how we can come into this most authentic, beautiful self that we deserve to be using menopause as a tool. So that will be the next one. But I want you to understand, if you think you're going crazy, you're not. You're just dysregulated. And this world has dysregulated us. Okay, so metabolic health. How did I start with metabolic health? For those of you who are like, hey, I just want to know, can I put butter in my coffee? I don't know why you have to go off on all this stuff. I just want to know, butter in my coffee, does that work? Anybody want to know that? Yes, the brave few. Yes, you can have butter in your coffee. And I had a woman literally stalk me around my house and follow me to ask me if Kerrygold butter was okay to put in her coffee. No, Kerrygold butter is not okay to put in your coffee, and I'll show you why here in a second. So this statistic came out in about March or April of 2020, when we were all in quarantine. And at that time, I had a really interesting moment in my career because we had this really busy practice, which quickly got cut in half because nobody wanted to come out. I had to hire more staff to be able to see people away from each other. We had fights in my practice all the time, mask, no mask. People were like, that person's not masked. Another person's like, I can't come in because these people are masked. I'm like, oh my God, talking about dysregulated. And so my husband and I actually spent the first 90 days of COVID just scouring PubMed. So PubMed is like Google for research articles. It's where you go to get the vetted research article. And by the way, because I know somebody's going to ask me, and you're going to go look on my Instagram, that freaking article that came out, or it wasn't even an article, it was Media Blitz that says that you're going to increase your chances of a cardiovascular event by 91% when you intermittent fast. That wasn't on PubMed. That is a bullshit fake article. So every doctor knows this, every scientist knows this, that if you want to see what has been vetted as legitimate science, you go to PubMed. That research study is not on PubMed. I just did an Instagram on it, so you can go to my Instagram and look at it. So, but this came out that only 12% of Americans are metabolically fit. So what does it mean to be metabolically fit? So you need to have your hemoglobin A1C under 5. You have to have your blood pressure be normal. You have to have normal cholesterol, all of them, total, LDLs, triglycerides, HDLs, they all have to be normal. You can't have any signs of liver damage or any of the liver enzymes being high, bilirubin, AST, ALT, can't have any imbalance there. And it's the circumference around your waist. So those are the measurements. And here's what's really fascinating. Just thought about this right now. All of those need to be normal without the use of medication. So if you're like, I have normal high blood, I had high blood pressure, it's normal now because I went on a medication, you're not metabolically fit. So Ozempic right now, even though everybody's losing their midsection, we're not making everybody metabolically more fit because the actual language says you can't be on medication for any of those. Otherwise, you are not metabolically fit. And we only have 12% of Americans. Do you know that after the COVID, that number went down to 8.6? This is our problem right now. This is how we stop the dysregulation, is we have to fix the metabolic system. So, a good question, you ready? Everybody ready to be really mad? You're gonna wanna take some pictures here. A good question is, how did we get so metabolically off course? There is a chemical that they're putting into our food called an obesogen. How many people have heard of obesogens? Yeah, this is a good group. It's a good group. Obesogens are literally chemicals that they are allowed by the FDA, which, by the way, the joke within the FDA is the F is silent, and it is. F stands for food. They're more interested in drugs. And why would we have an administration that puts food and drugs together? That doesn't make sense. So what they are allowing these chemicals to pour into our foods, and they are making us fat. And I'm going to show you how that works. And I'm going to show you which foods they are. The other thing they're doing, and this should make you really mad, is these chemicals that are poured into our food system are acting as estrogen mimickers. And an estrogen mimicker means that they go into an estrogen receptor site. Your body thinks it's estrogen, but it can't use it like estrogen. And so since it can't use it, what it does is it stores it. And guess where it stores it? Fat. And if you haven't heard this, if those of you that are new to my teachings, if you haven't heard that all fat is excess. So when you're standing in front of the mirror and you're not liking what you're seeing, and you just translate that into, God, there's a lot of excess here. I should probably figure out how I can undo this excess. And this is where fasting really comes in. So it's throwing off our hormonal system. One of the most shocking, I did not see this. I thought I wrote a fasting book. I'm going to be really honest. I thought I was just writing a fasting book. And what I learned last year was that I wrote a women's empowerment book. And what I also learned was that our 20 and 30-year-olds are suffering. The number of 20 and 30-year-olds that have messaged me, that have reached out to us and said, I don't have a cycle. I can't get pregnant. This is because the place we have to start is with these toxins. So I found this. This is actually, these charts are going in Eat Like a Girl. So you're definitely going to want to get Eat Like a Girl because I have list after list after list. And Eat Like a Girl. How many mama bears out there are like, I just want my daughter to understand what you're saying, Dr. Mindy. Keep your hand up. Keep your hand up. Okay, I wrote a book for you. It's called Eat Like a Girl. And I literally thought of the 20 and 30-year-old in every single moment that I was writing that book. I wanted that book to be something that mothers would give their daughters and be like, I can't tell you, but Dr. Mindy can. They'll hear it from me, right? Like we always hear it from another mother. They don't hear it from you. Just give them the book. So, but in the book, I map out these chemicals. So these obesogens are actually being poured into our foods. And what they do, and I know some of you are going to be like, well, caffeine? Oh my God. Caffeine's an obesogen? Well, Starbucks coffee is. I know, sorry. That's a chemical-laden caffeine. This is why when you drink coffee, you drink a more organic amount. But look at this. Look at all of these heavy metals are in all of our soils. Glyphosate, if you're not eating organic, you're getting obesogens. BHT and BHA are on here. Vani Hari was on my podcast, and she told me, we were talking about, like, how do you navigate an ingredient label? And she's like, just look for natural flavors. Most of these are hidden in natural flavors. What? It says natural. How can they do that to us? In fact, Vani and I had a fun conversation because I was like, hey, I want to know what it was like when you went into the corporations and you were going after the man and you're like, why are you putting this in our food? I'm like, let's go do that together. That sounds fun. And she was like, I'm a mom now. I got kids. I'm a little more mellow. I'm like, I'm not. I'm a menopausal woman who's fucking fired up. Come on, Vonnie, let's go. So I'm trying to pull Vonnie out of her cozy home so that we can go storm into some of these big corporations. But these are the chemicals. These are the ones, and they're every fucking where. You're putting them on your skin. You're eating them. I just got a good dose of them in my hotel room. Forgot to bring my favorite soap. Lathered some Obesogens all over me. They're everywhere. And what they do is that they turn your stem cells and they tell your stem cells to make fat cells. So these are two very interesting studies, the white mice on the end there. When a fetus is exposed to these obesogens in the womb, it takes a stem cell that is supposed to make bone, and it reprograms it and tells it to make fat. And so now we've got a childhood obesity epidemic, and we are shaming the parents. We are putting them on Ozempic, which is horrible, and we are not acknowledging that our food system has done this to our children. I had an interesting conversation with Jessie and Chopsu, who is the glucose goddess. Also not a shit, sorry. Feel like I'm like going against the team. Anybody know the glucose goddess? Really cool conversation. You can listen to it on my podcast. And we got talking about these obesogens, and she told me, she's from Europe, and she told me that actually they're concerned in Britain because kids aren't growing to the same height that they used to grow, like their height is smaller and smaller as the generations are coming on. That's because the mom was exposed to obesogens that were allowed in her food that took her child's stem cell, that this baby's born with all these stem cells that are going to help grow a healthy body, and the stem cells that were supposed to make bone so that they can grow to be the height of their generational family is now being put towards fat. And then this guy, this agouti mouse, anybody heard about the agouti mouse? So the agouti mouse over here, well, this was a study done years ago, and I don't know why we don't talk about this. It's like, oh yeah, that study came and went. But this study, what ended up happening is that the mouse, these are twin mice, they all had a gene for obesity, and the mouse on the left, they were fed, there's another point one, they were fed exactly the same amount of food, they were given exactly the same amount of exercise, so their calorie in, calorie out was exactly the same. The only difference is the mouse, the bigger mouse with the yellow hair, was fed plastic. And the minute that they put plastic into that mouse's body, that mouse became obese. Now, before you all go throw your water bottles out, which you probably should, the really cool thing is when they stopped giving the plastic, the mouse started to lose weight. That's how miraculous your body is. So, we have this toxic soup we are swimming in that is causing this obesity problem. What's the fastest way out? And it literally is fasting. And I didn't realize this, again, when I went and when I wrote the book, I had no idea how it was going to play out for millions and millions of women. I knew how it played out on my social media. I knew how it played out in my practice, so I knew it was a tried and true method. But I did not see how dysregulated and out of balance women were until I watched women finally be able to lose weight. So people who are like, I finally was able to lose weight with fasting, raise your hand. Keep your hand up. The reason, okay, go ahead and put it down. The reason is because you took a break from all of these. And you gave your body a moment to repair itself. That is the most fundamental reason why Fast Like a Girl worked for you. So this was the most common study, or I think it's the best study that was ever put out. It's not even really a study, it's a meta-analysis where the New England Journal of Medicine, which by the way is like the Bible for medical doctors, they looked at all of the studies done on fasting, and they basically decided that intermittent fasting was great for about 5 things. And that they were willing to say. So obesity, Alzheimer's and dementia, cardiovascular events, thank you, social media, wound repair or surgery repair, and gut changes. And they said, we looked at the studies and this is what we have found. So when you are going into a fasted state, you are in a healing state. So what happens for those of you that are like, well, I ate breakfast this morning, I'm feeling really guilty. Anybody feel, who hasn't eaten breakfast this morning? Okay, yeah, my people. And I'm not, no judgment if you ate breakfast. And then if it was like a sweet roll in the lobby, like maybe tomorrow you'll do it different because you didn't know. Like again, it's not judgment. But you have two metabolisms. How many people are like, I have a slow metabolism? Oh, come on. How many people have at one point in their life said, I have a slow metabolism? I can't believe, I heard so many women say that. You don't have a slow metabolism. You just weren't taught how to use your fat burner metabolism. You have two metabolisms. You have a metabolism that clicks in when you eat. We call this the sugar burner system. And you have a metabolism that kicks in when you fast. And the name of the metabolic game is to go in and out of these two states. And when you learn to metabolically switch in and out, your metabolic system is healed. So a big question that so many podcast interviewers asked me last year was, who is fasting for? And I'm like, it's for everyone. And then they love that quote and they want, click it, make it a reel. And then all the naysayers want to come and say, well, it didn't work for me. Well, guess what? Sleeping, it works for everyone. If you didn't know that. But not everyone can sleep. So this metabolic switch is truly your door in to fixing your metabolism and fixing your body's ability to regulate the glucose that comes in. So I scoured the research and I found over a 10-year period that there were 6 different length fasts. I'm not going to go into all of them. I wrote them in extensively in the book. If you want to know what chapter was the hardest to write, in which I wrote 5 times and rewrote and rewrote and rewrote, and it was The Art of Fasting. And I feel like I have nailed that chapter. So if you get confused on this, go read chapter 2. It's called The Art of Fasting. And when we take a break from food for 13 hours, we start to see inflammation come down. We start to see growth hormone go up. Growth hormone's the hormone that slows aging down. It's the precursor hormone for all other hormones in our body. When we go to 17 hours, our intelligent body, you know what it does? It's like, oh my God, no food, no nutrients. I better be a better version of myself. And so it repairs everything inside the cell. And you know what else it does? It's like, hey, you are a bad cell. You're about to become a cancer cell. You are speeding up the aging process. You need to go, and it creates something called apoptosis, which is it will remove that cell and kill it and get it out of your system. At 24 hours, your incredible body goes, oh my God, you know what? We haven't any food or glucose coming in. We better get the microbiome repaired and ready for food, because when food comes in, we need to be our best. And so it takes all that bad bacteria and it gets it out of your system. It takes a leaky gut and it fixes the leaky gut. At 24-hour fast. At 36 hours, your brilliant body, you know what it does? It's like, okay, this is not good. We have not had food for a long time. There's no nutrients, there's no glucose. But guess what? I stored some food somewhere years ago. I'm going to go find that and burn it. So those of you who are like, I tried fasting, Dr. Mindy, it's not working. Try more 36-hour fasts, because it's enough time for your body to go and find the food that it didn't know it was there. 48-hour fast, your whole dopamine system reboots itself so that you have motivation to go find food. So you get new dopamine receptor sites, and the whole system, from you being like saturated with all the obesogens and all the social media, all of a sudden, like without food for 48 hours, the whole system, dopamine system, reboots itself. And you will be the happiest. Just try it. Anybody happier after 2 days of fasting? I can tell the fasting people, because they're the ones that they just log in and they're like, they would walk into my office and they're just like, yeah, it's working. It's working. Because at 48 hours, we change the whole dopamine system. And at 72 hours, you change you reboot the whole immune system. The best thing we could have done at COVID is put everybody on a 3-day water fast, because we would have rebooted the whole immune system and the metabolic system, and we would have made everybody stronger. But instead, we gave people Dunkin' Donuts. Okay, so then this leaves, like, why do women need to fast differently? And there's 2 things that I want to tell you on this, and this is where the fire hose part comes in. I'm going to go really fast through this because I want you to get every little bit of information I possibly can so that you can make good decisions for yourself. Men work in a 24-hour cycle. So they work, they get testosterone every 15 to 20 minutes. You notice that? One of my favorite interviews last year was Stephen Bartlett on Diary of the CEO. Anybody listen to that interview? If you haven't, go to YouTube, because it was a really fun. He had me there for 3 hours, by the way. You should never sit a menopausal woman down and ask her questions for 3 hours. At the end of it, I was like, oh my God, give me some estrogen. But one of the things that we talked about was how in men, you guys get pulses of testosterone every 15 minutes. And I said to him, you know what we say about you, right? And he's like, no. I'm like, if we don't like your opinion, we'll just come back, 20 minutes, 25 minutes later, and your opinion may be different, because it depends on when testosterone came in, when it might affect your answer. And testosterone is made in the testes, and it goes up into the brain and converts to estrogen. Women, we are not like that. We work off a monthly cycle. And we have the estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone, and it pulses in at different times during the month. And one of the things that I have noticed throughout my whole experience is how many women don't understand their fucking menstrual cycle. And we go into our doctor's office and we are not asked even where we are in our cycle, and it matters, and I'm going to show you why. Sorry. Okay. So here are the fundamental rules. There's 10 of them. First one is cortisol is your absolute enemy. It is the bully on the hormonal play yard. So those of you who are trying to balance your hormones, you need to balance insulin first. If you are not insulin sensitive, these hormones will be off. This is PCOS. This is menopause. This is menopausal belly weight. This is infertility. If you're struggling with fertility, you need to make sure that you are insulin sensitive. That statistics, so it's so hard right now for couples to get pregnant, and then we look at 8.6% of Americans metabolically healthy. We have to fix insulin. And now the next thing we've got to think about is cortisol. As long as we stay in a dysregulated world, all of our efforts to balance insulin become more difficult. But then at the top of the hierarchy is our beautiful queen, oxytocin. This is why it matters that you smile. It matters that you hug. It matters that you go find that bestie you didn't have time for. It matters that you pet your dog. It matters that you laugh. That matters for all of these hormones. So please, please don't be too busy to put those aside. Rule number 2, you have to fast to your monthly hormonal cycle. So if you are a cycling woman, the easiest way, I'm going to go through this really fast, and I'm going to break each one down, but the easiest way to look at this is when hormones go high, you're going to pick up eat like a girl. When hormones go low, you're going to pick up fast like a girl. So we fast more when hormones are low. Now, in the middle phase here, you can fast a little bit, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But in general, when hormones are high, fasts go low. When hormones are low, fasts go high. Now, that's for the cycling woman. Let me just make sure. Okay. Don't worry, menopausal women. I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, I'm so tired of her always talking about the cycling women. I have some in here for you. Don't worry, I am one. Okay, so first 10 days of your period, day 1 of your period is when you bleed and you have to use feminine care products. If you spot, that's not day 1. Day 1 is the day you bleed. And for the next 10 days, what's going to happen is your estrogen is going to build. And I have a new phrase I love about estrogen, and I call it, she brings her girl gang with her. When those first 10 days, as estrogen is building, you know what estrogen stimulates? She stimulates dopamine and serotonin and acetylcholine and glutamate and oxytocin and BDNF. She brings all those neurotransmitters with her. She's like her girl gang. And so those first 10 days, maybe the first 2 you don't feel great, but for the next 8 until you go into ovulation, you should feel like a rock star because you are neurochemically locked and loaded. This is the time that you want to fast more. Estrogen, if she could talk to you, she'd be like, can you make yourself insulin sensitive, please? I need you to bring insulin down. The other thing estrogen would say to you is like, I don't really care about cortisol, whatever. If you want to stay up all night, go ahead and stay up all night. Don't really care. If you want to push hard with your workouts, you want to push hard with your fast, go for it. I don't freaking care. I care about one thing, and that's that you're insulin sensitive. That's all I care about. So conditions like PCOS, trouble regulating health, your weight, all of infertility, all of that. I'm definitely not out of time. So it says 0 there, but I'm gonna keep going. So, but this is what you wanna do when you are in those first 10 days. Okay, oh my gosh. There we go. Okay, the middle part called ovulation, I called it manifestation phase. By the way, I gave all these parts of the cycle fun names. I have a dear friend who's a hormonal expert, and she said, we should give each hormonal phase nail polish names. And I was like, that's a really good idea, except for I'm not like a girly girl. Like I don't put a lot of nail polish on, so I'm not like familiar with my favorite nail polish names. So I wanted to give them names of what is going on. So power phase means you can power up on your health activities. Those are the moments. Manifestation means you're a fucking badass. And if you want to manifest a baby, that's what your hormonal superpowers are in that moment. Or you can manifest a new job, you could get a promotion, you can resolve a conflict because you are hormonally locked and loaded. So during ovulation, between day 11 and day 15, estrogen hits her peak. Estrogen gives you access to both sides of your brain. So you can be creative and you can be logical at the same time. Estrogen also makes you a really good verbal processor, which is why we like to talk. And estrogen allows you to stay focused, which is why when we go into menopause, we're like, bing, 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 and we can't stay focused. So, but I said throughout all of COVID, I was like, if we just put every ovulating woman in the room, we would solve this problem right now. Let's just we're half the planet. When we all the ovulating ones, let's just put it in one room and we say, okay, how do we get out of this? We would have the answer because we have so many hormones. We also, by the way, have a lot of testosterone. It's the only time of our cycle that testosterone comes in. And testosterone is more than libido, it's motivation and drive. Okay, then we come out of ovulation and all our hormones crash again, which is why you can be the front half of your cycle for the cycling women. You can be like skipping along and you're like, yeah, feel good. It's great. Oh my God, I had the best workout of my life. Yeah, because you just got a good dose of testosterone. I'm so motivated, I'm just killing it. And then day 16 hits and you're like, I don't feel good. Because all your hormones came crashing down for a 5-day period. And this is where we can do more HIIT training. We can do more fasting again. If you're bloated, you want to focus on opening up your detox pathways. There's so much to say about this, but I'm gonna, for the sake of time, move through. And then this is the outlier. This is the nurture phase. It's the week before our period, and it's when progesterone comes in. So where estrogen and testosterone are like, yeah, I came up with this idea. I don't know if they'll cut it out to Eat Like a Girl, but I really liked it. Estrogen, if you were at a party, estrogen would be like the one that's like, turn the music up. This is so fun. There's my friend, this person and that person and that person. I love this. And testosterone would be the one that's like, this better not stop. This is so fun. We can't let this, we have to leave this place at noon? Can't we just party all night long? That's what testosterone would say. And maybe testosterone would find somebody to make out with in the corner as well. But progesterone is like, oh my God, it's too noisy. Everybody's trying to talk to me. I don't really like any of the conversations on here. Nobody's here. Honey, can we go? So when you are like different at different parts of your month, you're supposed to be, because you have these hormones coming in and out. So rule number 3 is that you need to also fast to your hormonal cycle, or to your life cycle of hormones. So here we go, menopausal and perimenopausal women. Where are the perimenopausal women in the room? Raise your hand. Okay, all the perimenopausal women stand up. I know okay, I want everybody to look around the room. I know, it's really embarrassing. Come on, just stand up. Because these are the women that need hugs. These are the women that are like they will do so well with a smile. Please help give them more oxytocin. That's why I wanted you to stand. Okay, go ahead and sit down. So in perimenopause, we have to often fast or eat according to our symptoms, because sometimes we have a period every 2 weeks, sometimes we have every 65 days, sometimes it's 75, like what the hell is going on? So when we can't think straight, we fast more. When we're anxious and we can't sit on the couch and rest, we eat more. And it doesn't mean you just sit with a box of pizza and a tub of ice cream, but you're gonna go into food. We also know that when you have low progesterone, you're anxious, you're reactive, you're irritable. Do you know what the number one symptom of menopause is? And it's not hot flashes. It's the one that everybody wants to talk about, but it's not. It's irritability. And that's because we are losing progesterone. And with progesterone, she only has one gang. She has a bestie. She doesn't have a gang. Her bestie is GABA. And so wherever progesterone comes, she brings GABA with her. And she's like, everybody just calm down. Everybody calm down. Can we just relax? And when you go into perimenopause, she goes away and nobody's telling your brain to calm down. So food is more of your resource. Yoga. Stop overscheduling yourself. Like rest more and recover more. That is your tool. Postmenopause. Tell me, I'm like a year and a half without a cycle. So I'm like a new postmenopausal woman. I'm like, this is awesome. This is really good, right? Shit, how come nobody told me? I've sat and taught this to so many people, and all the postmenopausal women just sit there and they smile. And I'm like, shit, you didn't tell me how good it gets. So when we fast at postmenopausal, what I found is that a lot of women who went through perimenopause and they couldn't lose weight and they still have hot flashes and they're still struggling to sleep and they've been years without a cycle, the first thing to do is to start practicing fasting. And if you practice fasting over and over and over again, you will lose that menopausal belly weight. My favorite review out of the over 4,000 reviews on Amazon for Fast Like a Girl, and thank you to those of you who have left reviews, but one of my favorite was an 80-year-old woman who said, I finally lost my menopausal belly weight. She lost 30 pounds with this. So I wrote a book for you, by the way, menopausal women. I wrote a book for you, postmenopausal woman. It's called The Menopause Reset, and there's 5 lifestyle changes you're supposed to make after 40. So even for peri and post, you need to make these changes. And if you don't make these lifestyle changes, you will spend a good portion of your perimenopause and postmenopausal years trying to lather creams on you and take troches and slap patches and divorcing your spouse and getting rid of the friends that you think have harmed you. Do the 5 lifestyle changes before you get divorced, okay? Like literally, one of the statistics is like 70% of divorces that happen over 40 are initiated by women. Men, there should be more men in this room, if they're in a heterosexual relationship, to witness that. Okay, the other thing I wanted, before I move off postmenopause, I recently found a study about 2 weeks ago that when our hormones dip, it triggers a part of the brain that initiates suicidal thoughts. So I just this is really important to say this because 45 to 55 is the most common time for a woman to commit suicide. It is not the 16-year-old that's killing herself. It's the fucking 47-year-old who wasn't given the answer in her doctor's office and wasn't taught how her body is and wasn't given lifestyle tools. And all of a sudden it got too tough and this part of her brain got triggered and she was out. So if you've had suicidal thoughts, I want you to know it's normal. It doesn't mean that you have to live with them. Do the 5 lifestyle changes. Get the menopause reset. Okay, number 4 is when we look at this fasting lifestyle. So remember, you're a sugar burner. When you eat food, you're burning energy from the food. When you don't eat food, You are burning energy from fat. So that diet that you have been on forever trying to burn fat, it's never going to work. It's never going to have a lasting result. You've got to be able to pair it to a fasted window. But what I'm finding, and this is a real pet peeve right now, because people are trying to take down fasting because nobody's getting wealthy off of people not eating. The food industry is struggling and big pharma is struggling. So just know that the studies and the media blitzes are going to keep coming. So when we look, one of the criticisms is, oh, it eats muscle. Oh, it eats the microbiome. I'm like, oh God, I'll get like calls from my team. They're like, we're getting a lot of DMs on like, supposedly fasting eats muscle. I'm like, fuck, you want me to answer this again? Like, let me explain this. So fasting is a healing state that you put yourself in and your body repairs and it heals. It's like a meditation retreat for the metabolic system. And then when you eat, that first meal matters. So if you want to regrow the microbiome, eat the 3 Ps. I listed them in Appendix B. If you didn't look at Appendix B, go look at Appendix B. And it's polyphenol, probiotic, and prebiotic foods. It's fiber. It's salads. It's vegetables. Make sure that first meal has that. And if you're worried about losing muscle, make sure that you're putting in more protein in that first meal. That first meal back over here really, really matters. That's why I put a whole chapter in Fast Like a Girl. Is one of the things that was kind of controversial. It was like, do we really need a whole chapter on how to break your fast? Yes, we do. And Eat Like a Girl, do we really need a whole bunch of recipes on how to break your fast? Yes, we do. And so I've provided that for you. Okay, rule number 4, you've got to keep your detox pathways open. So this is really important. This is the one you're going to want to take because this is life-saving. So every organ has this ability to get rid of toxins and get them out of the system. And so your liver is one of the hardest working organs. And so if its detox pathway is called the common bile duct, and then out of the common bile duct, it goes into the stomach, the small intestine, it goes into the small intestine, then into the large intestine. So you need to be having bowel movements every day. If you're not detoxing. You need to be sweating every day because your skin is going to get toxins out. And you need to be checking your pathways every day. And the pathways that I check every day are right above the supraclavicular area. Is it puffy or is it pitty? I check my inguinal area. Is it puffy? Is it pitty? Under the arm, is it puffy or is it pitty? It is an arm pit, not an arm puff. So if you keep it where the lymph pathways get congested, toxins are not getting out of you. I'm now adding menstrual blood for those of you that are menstruating as a way of releasing the toxins out of you. And for women, when they fast, their body goes into this amplified healing state. So we got to open these pathways up. We have to pay attention to all of the pathways and make sure that we're taking good care of them. So there's a couple really cool hacks. I just want to throw this one in here. When I was on Stephen Bartlett's podcast, we got a beautiful message from a woman because we got talking about the pit and the puff. I mean, we went down lots of pathways. 3 hours again. I'm a little upset about that. But what happened was that a woman listened to the podcast and sent us a message and said after she heard the pit and puff story, she went and looked in the mirror and she had a really big puff. And so she went to her doctor. Turned out she had a rare form of lymph cancer and they caught it early enough to be able to treat it. And we literally fucking saved her life. So check your own pit every morning. Every time I take a shower, I'm checking it. I'm checking this. And if it's puffy, I put a whole chapter and a bunch of information on opening detox pathways. I have a bunch of videos on opening detox pathways. So make sure you're opening it and go teach another woman. Okay, number 5 is that women need more minerals when they fast and more amino acids. So very interesting study, not to geek out on science, but I do love science. Spent a lot of time in PubMed, so it's kind of like a friend. Check this chart out. Look at this. The first column is your menstrual phase. The second column, so that's when you're bleeding. This is when you're bleeding. This is after your bleed and you're building, your estrogen restores. This is when you ovulate, and these two are right before you actually shed. And what the colors mean, on one side are all the amino acids and the minerals that you need, and the red is the time when you need them the most. The blue is when the time you need them the least. So why are we taking supplements all month long, the same supplement over and over again? We should be cycling everything. We should be cycling more minerals, more aminos. Again, back at menstrual blood, when we shed these toxins out, we also shed electrolytes out. Why are we not teaching women to bring electrolytes back in? So what I noticed with all these women fasting was that they were getting brain fog and dizziness and rashes, and they had symptoms men didn't have. And that's because you need more minerals and amino acids. And I like to put them in my fasting window. So I walk around with jugs of water with lots of different weird things in them, but for sure, aminos and minerals are in them, and I drink them all in my fasting window. And if you're like, oh, the fasting window is really hard, put it in a wine glass, put it in a martini glass. It makes it a whole lot more fun. Okay, number 6, this is coming. In Eat Like a Girl, I got some fasted snacks for you. So yes, you can eat and you can drink things in your fasting window. So this was a study that I found a couple years back. I guess it was 2021 it was done. And basically they took 2 groups of people and they said, okay, let's have one group just fast to 13 hours and then stop. And let's have the other group go to 13 hours and then eat a fasted snack and go 3 hours more. And let's see if we can tell what the metabolic difference was. The group that went longer with the fasted snack lost more weight around the belly. I know everybody wants that. And the metabolic markers, hemoglobin A1C, cholesterol, improved more dramatically. This was done over a 30-day period. So I looked up what's in a fasted snack. This is what that study said. The fasted snack has to be under 200 calories. It has to be 18 grams of fat, or these are the upper end. So it has to be less than 18 grams of fat. It has to be less than 5 grams of protein, and it has to be less than 4 grams of carbohydrates. And you know who knows this? Is our good friend, Dr. Walter Longo. Anybody heard of Prolon, the fast mimicking fast? That's what he did. He just created 5 days of a fasted snack. So in the new book, I have recipes for you on fasted snacks that are pretty delicious. I'm very excited. I'm like, this is the whole reason to buy the book, is to learn what you can eat and drink in your fasting window. But here are some of the things that, MCT oil, yes. Keto cups are my favorite. I wish I owned some stock in that company. I do not, but I freaking love keto cups. Raw nut butter, avocado bone broth is also, if you keep it under, you can't drink too much because you got to keep that protein under 18 grams in that total in that fasting window. If you're like, I don't know what the heck you're talking about, don't worry. I've elaborated on the fasted snack in Eat Like a Girl, so it's coming to you. Number 7, when you eat, eat. So when we go into this eating window, nourish yourself with food. This is why I have a whole cookbook coming for you, is to teach you how to nourish yourself with food. And so one of the things that happens when we fast is we lose our hunger. How many people? So we don't want to eat. You got to eat. You got to eat. The thyroid needs 1,200 calories a day. So if you consistently don't get 1,200 calories a day because you're not eating, you're going to destroy your thyroid. So very quickly, I've came up with 2 different styles of eating. One is called ketobiotic. One is called hormone feasting. And they are basically carb cycling. So you go low carb, high carb. Well, all those studies that came out, all the media blitzes that came out, oh, keto's bad for women. They forgot to say at certain points of your month, and for menopausal women, they have to cycle keto. So keto's great, and I'll show you here in a second, for fat burning. Hormone feasting is when we want to bring up our nutrients so we can make hormones. Hormones are made out of aminos and protein and minerals. You need food to be able to make hormones. And when we look at the carbohydrate, we got into this big crazy thing in our society about like carbs are bad. The only carbs that are bad are these carbs right here. So make sure you, when you're talking about a carb, you're not putting a man-made carb and a nature's carb, because nature made us some amazing carbs. So if you want to lose weight, if you want to get yourself insulin sensitive, if it's the first part of your cycle, if you're having hot flashes, if you hate the belly weight, if you're having trouble focusing, we go into ketobiotic more. Whereas if you are struggling with anxiety, you have bad PMS symptoms, you're spotting, your periods are heavy and they're clotting, you can't sleep, we go into hormone feasting more. That's as simple as I can make it. The other piece about food that I really want to emphasize is protein definitely is the hero macronutrient right now, and it's having its moment in the culture. So when we look at protein, whether you're plant-based or you're omnivore, that sounds a lot better, omnivore, you have to make sure you're getting 1 gram of protein for every pound of ideal body weight. Now, how many people have tried that? It's hard. So I'm trying to make things simple, so just make sure you're having 30 grams of protein at every single meal. In Eat Like a Girl, I list out all the plant-based proteins and how much they are and all the animal-based proteins, so you'll have a resource for that. Okay, second rule of this sugar burner system, or another rule, is fat with every meal. Every meal needs to have fat. Fat is like a brake for your blood sugar. So if you're hungry all the time, if you're finding that you can't get the results in a fasted state, make sure you're please, you're adding in the healthy fats. And by the way, just so we're all clear, I listed the healthy fats in Appendix B. If you didn't see them, everybody better go to Appendix B and Fast Like a Girl after this. Okay, number 8, fasting is a lot easier in a community because of oxytocin. How many people did our water fast here with Hay House in January? Oh, you guys, that's we have some peeps to bring over to the fasting world, because it was, I still get stopped by people on the street that did that collaboration project that my business family, I'm gonna call it, did it with Hay House. We came together and we had over 100,000 people do a 3-day water fast, and I led every single day. We will do it again. It was a huge hit. Fasting is a lot easier in community. Okay. Number 9, this is my favorite one, and I have a whole section on this in Eat Like a Girl, because I should have said it more in Fast Like a Girl. There is a theory in science called N of 1. So when we look at a study, the N is how many people were in the study. So the study from last week that hit the news, there was close to, we looked at that, we're like, how many people were in the study? It was 20,000 people that they looked over a very long period of time. And by the way, one of the things that they had is they, over like a 7-year period, they had them report twice and call in and talk about their symptoms and their timing of their food. And the people that were in the intermittent fasting group, by the way, 27% of them were smokers. So that could potentially be why there was a 91% higher risk of cardiovascular health. Sorry, I just had to go there. But here's the thing about N of 1. N of 1 means the only person that matters is you. So if you read my book and you're like, I love this, I don't love this, it doesn't work for me, then you do you. Pull what works. If you're on Instagram and you're like, oh, everybody's saying I should lift heavy weights, but God, when I go to the gym, I hate it, I'm injuring myself, then find a strategy that builds muscle that's unique to you. Stop trying to be like everybody else. When you're out at ladies' night and the ladies are like, I took this supplement, I went on Ozempic, I did all these things, and now I look like this. Be me. Don't be your friend, be you. I'm just giving you tools. If you're like, if you think I'm an idiot, no problem. Just stand for something and find your own path. And the last thing that I'm going to say here, last couple of things, is that I spend a lot of time thinking about hormones, if you can't tell. In fact, I love, when I left on Thursday to come here, my 24-year-old daughter was in the kitchen, and I was like, oh, I got to go back on a plane, and I got to go back to a hotel room. I was on a plane in hotel rooms every week last year, and it killed me. And so I was like, oh, I need some oxytocin. Ooh, there's one of my children. So I went into the kitchen, And she was making coffee on her way out the door to work. And I was like, I need some oxytocin. And she's 24. And so I was like, oh, this feels so good. It's like reattaching my arm. I'm like hugging one of my children. It's amazing. And she's like, you can just ask for a hug. You don't have to say you need oxytocin. That's how much I think about hormones. But this is what I have decided. I have decided that your hormones are always adapting to your environment. They are signal chemicals. So if you put yourself in a stressful environment, they shrink. If you put yourself in a loving environment, they will start to feel like it's safe to come out. When your body doesn't feel safe, those hormones go away. It cannot heal. And so what I've noticed is that I've done both individual coaching with people and I've done group coaching with people. And what I find is that when we gather women in a group, all the women start to heal because they feel supported, they feel safe. And you could say, well, yeah, it's like nice, but it actually creates an environment where women can heal. So a friend of mine said to me, like, don't we need to invite the men into this? And we do need to invite the men into it. But as women, we've been fighting against the patriarchal pace for so long that we just need a hot fucking moment to gather around each other, give ourselves a big hug, and support each other, which is why we are natural nurturers. We are natural collaborators. We shouldn't be competing with another woman. We should be collaborating with another woman. We are half of the planet, and we need to come together. And so I end on this. I saw that Marianne Williamson is a friend of mine, and she posted this on her newsfeed, and I loved it. And it was, when one woman heals, the world heals. We are 50% of the population. If we just stand up and heal ourselves, start with yourself first, because we always want to go to other people, don't we? No, we're going to start with ourselves. Put your own oxygen mask on first. And you're going to take care of yourself first. And then everything that you learn through what I'm teaching or other people teaching, now you're going to go share that with other women. Maybe even the woman you don't like. Go find her and go teach her. And the mama bears are teaching their kids and their granddaughters, and we're rallying all the women together. You know what we can do, because we're 50% of the planet, is we can change the frequency of the planet if we come together. So last thing I will say, because I have 52 seconds and I'm very proud of the fact that I made it on time. I am trying to grab a girl gang to take this message out to the world. I cannot do it on my own. So I have partnered with Hay House to create a certification program called Fast Like a Girl Certified. And if you want to know more about hormones, if you're a health coach and you want to be Fast Like a Girl certified and you want to bring it into your environment, if you want to learn how you teach this, join me in my certification course. There are over 80 videos that I literally sat down in 3 days and just taught you everything I know about hormones and about guiding other people through balancing their hormones. If that feels right to you, the QR code there is for the certification course, and please join me in that. If that does, I got 1 second. Whoa, oh no, it's going the other way. Okay, last thing I want to say. Don't ever, ever, ever give up on yourself. Please. Don't ever, ever, ever let somebody tell you how healthy you should be, how worthy you are. Don't let anybody else determine your health fate. Only you determine your health fate.